exercise when I was teaching at Iowa State that I thought that was a revelation to the students. And that, Iowans never eavesdrop, right? And they never do anything naughty, and they always say yes and please and thank you. And so I gave them an eavesdropping exercise. And they had to go anywhere. They had a week to do it. And they had to write down 2 pages of dialogue. And it could say Al and Bill, or A, B, C, and D, or person 1 or person 2. So they wrote down the 2 pages of dialogue, and sometimes it took them a whole week to get it, because somebody would see them doing it. And then so they'd have to stop. And they also, I made them write it down. They could not record it. They could not remember it. They had to write it down. And so then they would come to class the next week, and then various people would read. If there are 4 people in the dialogue, then 4 people would take the parts and read. And one of my favorites, a guy woke up in the middle of early in the morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning. He can hear some pounding on the door upstairs in the apartment house where he lived. Bam, bam, bam. Let me in. Who is it? Bam, bam, bam. You know who it is. Let me in. Who is it? Bam, bam, bam. Let me in. Who is it? Yeah. This went on for 2 pages. I thought that girl who doesn't want to let her drunken boyfriend in is a genius. And another one was, there was this would have been back in the 80s maybe, and there was some kind of launch of some kind of rocket, can't remember, and the dialogue was 4 guys in a fraternity discussing the launch. And they never said anything other than technical details about the plane, because they must have been in engineering school, So it was really an interesting insight to the way the minds of the boys were thinking, all they're interested in. So they would write these eavesdropping exercises, and then I'd say, okay, now you have to go write a story. It doesn't have to be based on your dialogue. And it has to be 3 people in a room and something happens. And they would come back in a week and their stories would be so much better just because they eavesdropped 1 time. That the dialogue in their stories would suddenly just pop out. So it's really important to be observant, to train yourself to listen rather than not listen. So that gets back to King Lear. What did I say about, what did you ask me?